right, my glue has dried and we're set up for the next section. So what I'm going to do is I'm pressing my die cut pieces into my Versamark pad face down. So the side that I want to be putting the powder on is on the pad. Let's cover it up so it's not drying out. And then I have a little Slurpee straw here. I'm going to use it to be able to control a little bit where I'm putting the powder. You can put as much of each color or as little as you want. I try not to do too much excess though, simply because I'm mixing two different colors. You can't separate them once they're mixed. So I do have a container that I put my green mix, or I have a few different containers with different color mixes or whatever. So I can reuse that this way, but I'm not going to put them back in that container. So I'm trying not to get too much excess out. So I have a little bit of this excess just from doing the sample. I'm just going to pour it on top, and that's going to cover any open spots. Tap the excess off without touching it too much. I am going to use a little alligator clip here to hold it while I emboss it, and I'm just going to melt that powder on there. You can see after, oh, there we go. After it's melted, it's nice and shiny and clear. It almost looks a little bit like glass. I'm going to put those pieces aside. Same with the other ones. And if you wanted, you could use your fingers to, let's put this over here. You could use your fingers to drop the powders on top, and that way you wouldn't have, because there is a little bit of a pattern just from the Slurpee straw. And that particular pattern doesn't bother me, but if you don't want that, you could always go and use your fingers, and that would eliminate any of the patterns there, taking any of the green that's off of that paper so it doesn't get mixed up into our next color. So let's do this guy next here. So I've got Hickory Smoke, I've got Kitch Flamingo, and I've got Villanous Potion for this one. There's a really nice bright pink that has just come out that I have on pre-order, but it's not here yet. Otherwise, I would probably be using that to go with my lighter pink, but that's okay. So once again, pressing the die cut into the Versamark pad, making sure that every spot is covered. And this one here, I have just a mixed glaze bit there, so I'm going to put the Hickory Smoke on the center of the flower. And I'm not trying to be super precise, I'm just trying to get it generally in a certain area. And then I'm putting the purple kind of on the raised die cut pieces, the pieces that we glued to the top. Once again, it doesn't need to be super precise. I just figured if that detail was there to be raised, that would be a good place to add a darker color. There we go. This one here, I'm just going to tap the back of it just so that some of that powder goes into the open spaces. There we go. And this one here, instead of holding it with an alligator clip, I'm just going to aim the heat gun away from my fingers. And once that half is done, I'm going to flip it over and do it the other way. And And I like to have things lifted up when I'm embossing them. I find it much easier to be able to see what is embossed and what is not quite yet. But you don't have to. You could have it sitting on your table. You might find that the heat gun catches it though, and it might move a little bit. So you just have to be careful of that. But you could always use like the die pick tool to hold it down while you're embossing if that helps. So for the last 3 flowers, I have a light blue and a dark blue. We've got weathered wood and prize ribbon. So once again, press the die cut into the pad to make it nice and make sure it's nice and coated. You're going to get a little bit of that on your fingers, but it's very easy to wash off, and I don't really mind it necessarily. So once again, I'm going to do the darker part first, and I'm doing it again right where the die cut's headpiece is glued on top of them. But you could do them however you want. If you wanted, you could just do a one color rather than adding the second color. I just thought the second color added a little bit of interest. There we go. And the other thing that we're going to do with these is we're going to add some distress crayon over top of that to just add a little bit of vintage grunginess, if you want to say that. Just add a little bit of different texture. And then I also did that on the back on the wood grain die cut, or wood grain embossing. All right, this one I am going to hold on its stem because it's going to be tucked behind. Oops. There we go. Same with this one. And then last but certainly not least, and this one I'm going to see the whole die cut, so once again I'm going to point the heat gun away from my fingers. Because yes, it gets quite hot. There we go. We've got all of our die cuts glazed. So I'm just going to tidy everything up, and then I will see you in the next video. Next video, we're going to add some of that distress crayon, just to add some vintagey, darker accents to it.